So during the gameplay, it's just going to alternate between the McCain player and the Obama player. Each player is going to have their starting hand of 3 cards, a draw deck. During the game, you're going to play a card, do what the card says, and then create a discard pile. So you have your hand, your draw deck, and your discard pile. During your turn, you can do one of 2 things. You can play a card from your hand, do what the card says to do, and then discard it. Or you can draw a card from your draw deck, putting it into your hand. If you already have 5 cards in your hand, you can't draw, you must play a card. But you can play a card which causes your hand size to go above 5. Other than that, there's no hand size limit. At some point your draw deck will be exhausted. At that point, you simply shuffle your discard deck, and that becomes your new draw deck. When you play a card, one thing that can happen is that it can tell you that you gain a support in a particular issue. The way you do that is, let's say for example that McCain plays a card that says he gains a support in defense in a state. He may choose Oregon. In Oregon, on the defense line, you see these 3 voter blocks. You can gain support in one of 3 ways. You can put a disc of your color on a circle that has their opponent's color. So the McCain player can play a red disc on a blue circle. If Obama had a disc on a red circle, you can remove the opponent's disc to make it red. If Obama had a disc on an undecided circle, you can replace it with a disc of your own color. All of these choices are equivalent, and it doesn't matter which one you do because they all result in a voter of their opponent color being replaced with one of your own color. If your opponent's color is not present, then it usually ends up being an undecided voter, in which case you could put one of your discs in that undecided voter spot. Another thing that can happen when you play a card is it can tell you to shift a state towards an issue. So for example, let's say in Oregon again, the McCain player plays a card that says shift an issue in a state towards defense. If the McCain player decides to do this in Oregon, he could do it by moving the triangle, the specified number of spaces, towards the defense side. So a third thing that can happen when you play a card is that it can tell you to alter the key demographic in a state. The McCain player may decide to alter the key demographic in Montana from Reagan Democrats to women. The key demographic is important in that it will help you to win over undecided voters. So for instance, one card might tell you that all undecided voters in states where women are the key demographic become McCain voters. So in this instance, Oregon and Montana have a key demographic of women. So all undecided voters in those states would become red. Some cards feature a large die icon. When you play this card, it's called going negative. So you still do what the instructions tell you to do, but after that you have to roll a die and see what the results of going negative are. In this case, I rolled a 4, so it says draw a card. The results of going negative apply to your opponent. So in this case, the Obama player would get to draw a card. So how do you win a state? A state is immediately won once the majority issue has all of the voters of a single color. So in this instance in Montana, the majority issue is currently defense, and defense is currently all red. So immediately the McCain player would win Montana. When you win a state, you get the matching electoral state tile and add it to the vote tally score chart. You then return all of the discs to their owners. You set aside the issue marker and the demographic marker, and the one state is put back in the box. The player who won the state then takes the full deck of state tiles. They're no longer separated. They can look through all of the state tiles and chooses one to bring into play. The issue and key demographic are initialized. A CNN breaking news card is drawn for the state brought into play, and you follow whatever the breaking news card tells you to do. The affected state shifts one space toward defense. This applies to the new state being brought into play unless the card says otherwise. Another way the ZNN Breaking News card can apply to another state is if you have a media support card in play. That's another type of campaign strategy card that can be played, the media support card. Only one can be in play at a given time, so if the McCain player plays a media support card, it remains in play until the Obama player plays another media support card. That media support card would then be in play. So that's the basic flow of the game. Play just alternates between the McCain player and the Obama player. During your turn, you can either play a card from your hand or draw a card. Once your draw stat goes out, you reshuffle. You play cards to gain support on a particular issue, or you might play a card to shift an issue in a state, or you may play a card to alter the key demographic, and you try to win a state by having the majority issue in a state all of your color. Once you win a state, you get that electoral tile to put on your vote tally track. The vote tally track will fill up as the game goes on, and you win the game once you reach the 270 or more electoral votes needed. And that is how you play Campaign Manager 2008. So that's Campaign Manager 2008. What do I think of this game? Well, I like it. You know, there's often a balance in terms of playtime and complexity in a game, and this game feels about right. The game is not that complex, but the choices are varied enough that it keeps it interesting. The game seems to come to a close at about the right point. When you feel like you've played enough of the game, the game's about over. So the playing time is about right, around 30 to 45 minutes. So you get in, you get a little bit of this feeling of this campaigning, and then you're done. You have a winner. All of the components are really nice. The state cards are real and really thick card stock. The campaign strategy cards are nice and heavy duty. The only component problem I have is with the vote tally track. You know, when you're putting your little electoral state votes on the track, it's hard sometimes to keep them in line and they get pushed around a little bit. So it might be better just to keep track of your electoral votes on a piece of paper. So other than that, the components are really nice for what you get. Would I recommend this game? Well, if you're looking for a two-player only game that has this campaigning political feel to it, and you enjoy that type of thing, then yes, I would very much recommend this. It's not that expensive. The playtime is not that long. You get in, you get out. It's a fun and enjoyable experience. So yes, I would recommend this game. So if this sounds like something you would be interested in, I highly recommend it. So that wraps it up for this episode of Board Game Review with Jason. See you next time!